Hi, I'm Tricia Morris from Club Scrap and welcome to your Coming Up Roses card kit workshop. Before we get started, just a quick little bit of business. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channels. It's perfectly free and lets you know when we have new workshops releasing. And take a second to just like this video when you get a chance to let me know you're watching, and leave a comment if you are inspired to do so. All right, well, let's get started with our kit here. I've got my instructions printed out. I like to keep those to my right. And then all of the envelopes and other ribbon and embellishments that came in the kit, let's go ahead and set those aside so we just start working with the paper. I'm going to sort the order of the paper into the order we'll be trimming it so that we're all on the same page. Let's begin by locating one sheet of the orange plain that's in the kit, and then since it has a texture, I'm going to put it texture side facing down. Once we're done sorting, we'll flip everything back up to the right side. Then grab one sheet of red, one light brown, one dark brown, and then we're going to find all those colors one more time. So back to the orange with that texture side down, red, light brown, dark brown. Next up, grab two of the prints that are in the kit. Those are text weight, and put them both face down. And then there are two different Cutaparts here. One has a darker background, that'll be next, followed by the one with the lighter background. That's the final piece that should be in your kit. Flip everything back over now so that that orange plain paper is at the top. And I'm turning back to page 1 of my instructions. And I will also take my accordion pocket file. Now, this is something I developed a long time ago to help us stay organized as we prepare all of the pieces of paper for our dozen cards all at once. So it helps us keep track of all the pieces going on which card. So if you don't have this, it's totally okay. Don't let that stop you from taking the class. Just make sure you take all of the pieces. When I say pocket A, just put it on pile A, and so on. Just keep 3 piles, A, B, and C, and then an extra pile D for things you don't use. The lip of this goes underneath the base of my trimmer to keep it upright, and let's just get started. Our instructions have us cutting 4 sheets of paper the same exact way. We'll work 2 sheets at a time. If you don't feel comfortable with that, that's totally okay. You can actually just do it 1 sheet at a time and then just rewind the video to that same spot so that you can do it over again. Here we have with the orange the need to find out what the grain direction of the paper is. So to do that, I'm going to hold the paper by an edge and give it a wiggle, give it a listen, and then I'm going to rotate. That's way more stiff. If I hold it by this edge, it doesn't want to bend at all. And if I hold it by this edge, it's very happy to bend in this direction. Now, the diagram in the instructions does have an arrow on it pointing up and down, and that's how we want the paper to dip as well when we put it into the base of the trimmer. And the same will be true for this red. So I'm going to check. This is quite stiff. This is nice and floppy. And I will stack now those papers neatly together and lift my trimmer blade here. And just by way of review, the centimeters run across the very top row of numbers, inches are the second row. So always make sure you're working with inches. And our first cut is 11.5. Now what we're gonna do is find the 11, go left 2 columns to get to the 11.5. Then push down on the clear bar after you make sure your paper is nice and straight, and we're cutting through both layers of paper. So I like to stand when I'm trimming, and we're off to the races. Then let's go to 10, a nice whole number for you, 10. Stabilize again until it's a habit. And then 5.5. There we go, 5.5. Now you'll notice how I've always let the paper just pile up to the right of the trimmer blade. Don't be moving this paper as it falls, because then I don't know where it is anymore. Rotate the piece that's in your trimmer base and trim it at 8.5. And that's gonna make 2 card bases. They need to be scored. We're making gatefolds out of this, so set them aside to be scored, not in one of those folders or pockets, but just aside. Now take the little rectangle that fell off the end when we made that cut and trim it at 4 3/4, and that'll be both pieces. Now when you find 4 3/4, again, just to review, I always like to find the whole number 4 and then go left 1, 2, 3 columns to 4 3/4. And this piece is going to go in pocket A. There's a small piece that fell from the end. We're just going to safely call that a scrap. You can throw it away or otherwise pop it in pocket D if you want to collect the scraps and do some projects with them later on. You certainly can. That is up to you. This long piece that fell here, this is going to be scored as well. So put it on the pile to be scored. And now we have this 1.5 by 12 inch strip. We're going to trim a bunch of squares out of this. So let's begin. The squares will be 1.5 inches. So our first cut is at 10.5, 9, 7.5, 6, 4.5, 3, and now when you do the 1.5, it's the same thing. Just kind of line it up in there, find the 1.5, push your index finger on the clear bar, and slice to get that last square. And card set C is all about the squares. I'm going to put all of these in the C pocket. And that does leave us with a long strip that happens to be a scrap. So I'll pop that in pocket D again. And we get to do all that one more time. Yay! So remember the grain direction process. Listen to that. Listen to this. You want peace and quiet running top to bottom. Same with the brown. Let's check that. There we go. We got it running this way. So flopping from top to bottom, let's create that first scrap. We'll trim at 11.5. Stabilizing each time. Then 10. And 5.5. Rotate and trim at 8.5. This pair gets scored, and then the other pair we're going to stack neatly and trim at 4 3/4. The large panel goes in pocket A, and you have these little scraps for D. This entire piece gets scored, set it aside, and now we make a bunch of squares again, starting at 10.5. So if you are good at measuring 10.5, just go down 1.5 inches to 9, 7.5, 6, 4.5, 3, and 1.5. There, we've got all of our squares again for pocket, remember, C. C is going to be full of squares. Okay, and our last little scrap here can go in pocket D. And we're moving on to our next diagram. So this is step 2 in your instructions. Once again, it looks like with the arrow, all the papers need to dip from top to bottom when we put them in the trimmer. So with the orange, I will check it. Definitely wants to dip this way. And then the red, give it a check. First cut in this one is going to be at 11 1/4. Stabilize again each time. And 7. Now rotate and cut at 11.5 and 10. Here we've got a gigantic card base for our set C 5x7 cards. Set it aside to be scored. And then this strip fell from the end. We're going to trim it at 5.5. And now this is kind of weird. This long piece you just created, the 5.5 inch one, it's a scrap. It's going to go in pocket D. And the little square that fell from the end, guess where it goes? You got it, C. And this long strip here, both of these, we're going to use on the inside of the set C cards. And now we'll grab this next. Now we're going to go on a journey with this piece. So just listen and trim carefully. I'll take my time. And if I am going too fast in general, you can adjust your playback speed in the settings on your YouTube channel. Just choose playback speed 0.75. That'll really slow me down a lot. Okay, here we go. We're going to cut at 11 3/4. 9, 6. Okay, now take the 6-inch piece and rotate it so it's vertical and trim it 3 1/4. this piece is going to be scored, so set it aside in the scoring pile. And then the guy that fell from the end here, that's another scrap. The next piece that fell and the next piece, they both go in pocket B. You've got these two pieces that fell, those are scraps, and then there's this long strip. We are going to use the strip, but we're going to trim it at 10 inches. Now for something this narrow, if you go all the way to the top, sometimes it's kind of hard to see where the 10 is. So if I bring the paper down a little ways, I can trim at 10. And this is used in card A. And then of course you've got some little tiny scraps here for the D pocket. And again, you can just dispose of them right away if you prefer. Now we've got our light brown here. Check your grain direction. We get to do all that one more time. Oh joy. And then grain dipping top to bottom. First cut's the same at 11 1/4. Then slide down to 7. Rotate and trim at 11 1/2 and 10. All right, this gets set aside to be scored. The long skinny piece will trim at 5 1/2. The 5 1/2 piece is our scrap, and then the square goes in pocket C. And then this long narrow strip, we rescued it from the D pocket. We're gonna put it in C. And now again, go with me on my little journey here. We'll trim this wider remaining piece at 11 3/4. 9, 6, rotate the 6-inch piece so it's vertical and trim at 3 1/4. This piece needs to be scored, so set it aside for now. The long strip that fell from the end, pocket D. Then you have 2 sets of panels, one's wider, one's more narrow for B, bravo. You've got the 2 really little scraps that fell from the end. We won't be using those. And lastly, we just need to trim our strips at 10 inches. And these are going to grow up to become the belly band for card set A. So if you don't want to use a belly band, you don't have to do any of this. Okay, so that goes in A. And again, we've got 2 little scraps here. All that leaves us with is 2 prints and 2 Cutaparts. So we're really making some great progress. If you can identify the grain direction on the print, it can be a little bit challenging. I feel like it wants to go this way. Yes, it does really want to dip this way. So I want the paper to dip from left to right. In this case, the script is running at an angle going this way, if I read it. I don't know if that's helpful to you or not. In the end, it's text weight, so it doesn't matter nearly as much as it would if it were a cover weight paper. Let's trim this at 8 inches. And then I'm going to rotate and cut at 8 again and 4. The 3 pieces you just made that are 4 by 8, set them aside to be scored, and then grab the remaining strip. We'll trim at 11 1/2, 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. All of the larger pieces you made go into pocket B. There should be 4 the same size for B. And then you're going to have 2 little strips here. These are completely optional to use, but I thought, why not? Put them in pocket A for now, and you can decide later if you would like to use them. We're moving on to page 2 of our instructions, and I'm going to place the paper, again, dipping left to right. So definitely, it's pretty clear to me, but if it's not to you, it's not a big deal. The text, again, is running at an angle where I can read it this way. First cut, 11 1/2, 10 1/4, and 9. Rotate the paper so it's horizontal, and we're going to trim at 11 3/4, 10 1/2, 7 1/4, 4. Keep going with me on this journey. Take the 4-inch piece that's in the trimmer right now and rotate it so it's horizontal. Let's cut this at 8 1/2 and 8. Okay, this piece that's in the trimmer base right now needs to be scored, so set it aside. Then there were 2 more narrow strips. We can put those in pocket A to use as an option later on. Next, you're going to find 2 strips that are the same exact size. Stack them neatly together and trim at 4 1/2. You can gather all of them up and place in pocket A. And now we're going to be in the square making department for a bit. So this piece is a long strip. It measures, it's 1 1/4 by 9. We're going to cut it at 8 3/4. That's going to take off a little scrap. Okay. Now we're going to go down every 1 1/4 inches. So next up is 7 1/2, 6 1/4, 5, 3 3/4, 2 1/2, 1 1/4. Every one of these cuts has a purpose. Very nice. Now I've made a whole series of squares here and one really little scrap. So we got the squares, we got our scrap. Guess where the squares go? Yes, they're going to join their friends in pocket C. Now we have 2 more strips that are the same width. Let me just show you what I have left here. These 2 really skinny ones, the skinny and the even really skinny, skinnier, is that a word? Goes in pocket D. I'm not going to use those. These are going to turn into squares as well. So we can trim them at the same time. Sometimes it can be less slippery if you put them plain side to plain side, and that won't affect the outcome of anything. So, and right out of the gates, we're going to create a small scrap. So just get these lined up as best you can. And our first cut is at 11 1/4. You can scoot those scraps right out of the way if you want. And now we're going to go down every 1 1/4. So from 11 1/4, we're going to go to 10. 8 3/4. 7 1/2. 6 1/4. 5. 3 3/4. 2 1/2. 1 1/4. Great. Now we have all of those squares made and half of them are facing the wrong direction. So if you want, you can just go through and flip everything right on over, or you can do this later. We're going to have a lot of organizing to do anyway when we get to set C with all these little squares. But trust me when I say that with all of the work pretty much done, those set C cards go together very quickly and easily. Here we are at our first sheet of 2 cut-aparts. And I want you to remove the outside perimeter according to those really faint guidelines on the edges. You're going to see a little plus sign at each corner. The goal is to align those marks with the edge of the blade of our trimmer. But on this first shot, it's kind of hard to see the bottom edge of our blade because the paper is still too large. So once I take off a little piece and I rotate, I can, well, I still can't see. I didn't take off quite enough. So basically I have to go around the entire edge. Now I can see where that hash mark lines up with the edge of the blade. With these dark papers, we have to do a hash mark in reverse. So in other words, the hash mark is white. And because this paper has a texture, it's just a little hard to see. So get your nice bright light and your reading glasses on and we'll be fine. So I have all of those edges cleaned up now, which basically gives me a nice 12 by 12. Place it in your trimmer so that that text strip is on the right, and we're going to cut at 11 1/2, 9, and 4 3/4. Now please be really careful here. I even made a mistake when I was doing my samples out of this. So rotate so that the 4 sentiments are on the right. And then the first measurement's a little weird. And it's weird because of our plan for set C. We had to cut on an eighth, okay? An eighth of something. So the first cut is at 10 and 1/8. And you're going to find that measurement by going halfway between the 10 and the 10 1/4. There's this medium-sized mark there. If I find that and I look, make sure the blade is going through the artwork break between the art, not through the artwork itself, because yeah, then you got the wrong number. Then we got 8 1/4. That's a nice easy one, hopefully. Next up, we're going to look for 6 3/8. Now that's halfway between 6 1/4 and 6 1/2. The medium-sized hash mark is 6 3/8, and then 4 1/2. That's the last time you have to draw those crazy numbers. And all of these fussy cut flowers, you see the little silhouette around them? They are going to be used in card set A. And then all 4 of the rectangular sentiments that dropped, C. Nice easy cuts on this. We're just going to trim on all the numbers divisible by 3. So that makes it 9, 6, and 3. Load these into pocket B. Bravo. Next, we have a series of words. Now, I will say that on the Beautiful, I just ended up not using them. There was just extra space that Jacqueline filled with the word. So we're going to cut these anyway, just so if you decide to use them, you'll have them ready to go. 11 1/2, 11, 10 1/2, 10. Okay, now we're going to cut at 7 1/2, 5, and 2 1/2. All 4 of the squares, these squares, are actually used in set A, and I did not use the Beautiful. Honestly, I had these cards so well packed, I just didn't need the extra artwork. So you can put these in D, and if you decide to use them, you can. Totally your call. You can use them for maybe a scrapbook page caption, whatever you want. Now, here we are at our last sheet of Cutaparts, and this time I'm going to try to get real close to that line, but I'm going to do the final touch-up on my last rotation. So now when I cut here, I can see where that mark lines up with the blade. Rotate again. Clean it up. And with these, the artwork and the frayed edges, it's very forgiving, which is kind of nice. My last cut to clean it up. And here we go. I'm going to start out now at 9 1/2. Then 7, 3 1/2. You can gather up the 2 strips that are the same, and we're just trimming this artwork in half at 6. And all 4 of these go in pocket C. Those are going to be the inner sentiments. Now we're going to make some more squares. So make sure this flower here is on the right edge, and we'll start at 10, 7 1/2, 5, 2 1/2. Gather up the squares. Those go in pocket A, and I actually use this guy in A as well. Now we have these 4 round floral shapes and then 2 fussy cut shapes. Now the fussy cuts were used in card set A, and I'm just going to use scissors to kind of separate these out. So A, and all of these were used in C. Now, if you happen to have a punch, like a 2-inch punch, you can use that to punch these out. If you happen to have a die cutting machine that you can run it through with a circular shaped die, that works. I happen to have this quilted edge die. Yes, the outer perimeter of this quilted edge die is 2 inches, and that was just perfect for popping these out. Again, a punch or even scissors will be fine. It can be very forgiving if you ink the edges, and all we're doing is trimming out the shape so that it will fit onto one of these circular dies. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and use my eyeball and scissors to just cutting around the shadow that's printed on the sheet. And I had Jacqueline add that shadow just so that in case we were in this predicament where you might not have something like that on hand. It's just going to go right on here like so. You can ink the edges, super forgiving. Again, the other option is a punch or pop it out with a thin cutting die. All of these pieces, after they're trimmed, are going to go in pocket C. And if you want, you can add those little scallop edge tags, you have them handy, into pocket C as well. And now we're ready to do some scoring. Next, I'll take my trimmer away, but before I do that, I'm going to make sure that I support my accordion pocket file, because the trimmer is what's holding it up and I don't want it to fall on the floor. And I swapped that out for my score pal, because we got some scoring to do on all of those card bases and all of those wonderful pieces. So I'm going to take this 4x8 text weight rectangle and I'm going to score this. And remember that this is text weight paper. So when you are scoring it, it doesn't need to be as with a heavy of a hand as it is when you're scoring with cover weight paper. It's just much lighter. It can tear more easily. So I'm going to score this at 2, 4, and 6, all right side up. And then I'll repeat that with the remaining 3 pieces here. 2, 4, 6. Just gentle enough to not tear the paper, and heavy enough so that you get a nice score. The score line at the 2 and 6 are probably the most important score lines. You could probably just put like a little tick mark at the 4 or something real light. You'll understand in a minute. I'm going to pop those into pocket A. Next up, we have these narrow little pieces here. These get scored at 4.5 and 5.5. Again, 4.5 and 5.5. Now, if you dig down a little bit, you're going to find 2 more in the red and the orange. So 4.5 on the red. When you score the orange, make sure that the texture side is facing up. 4.5, 5.5. And all 4 of these pieces go in pocket B. Bravo. Now we have the 7x10s. So if you use your score pal, you're going to see that there's a measurement along the left edge as well. I really like that. I can verify 7 is here, 10 is there. So we're scoring on the long side, or as I would say, horizontally. And we're scoring at 5. And again, because this is cover weight, a little bit more of a firm pressure is needed. Now, if you score and you cannot see a nice valley and a nice bump on the other side, don't be afraid to make a second pass. And then finally on this last orange piece on the textured side, scoring at 5. All 4 of these land in pocket C. Now we have this really long piece. You're going to find a 4.5 here and a 12 over here. These are your numbers. 6 1/4, 7 1/4, 10 1/2, 11 1/2. Let's repeat that. So 4 lines. Here we go. 6 1/4, 7 1/4, 10 1/2, 11 1/2. Now dig down a little bit. You'll find the red one that's really long as well. 12 inches long. 6 1/4, 7 1/4, 10 1/2, and 11 1/2. The last one, again, the textured side facing up, 6 1/4, 7 1/4, 10 1/2, 11 1/2. All of these are placed in pocket B for that standing box card. And now we're going to make gatefold cards out of these remaining 5.5 by 8.5 inch pieces. The gatefold is so frequently used, at least when this score pal was designed, that they've added a little dot on the 2 measurements that give me that gatefold card from a 5.5 by 8.5. So 2 1/8, 6 1/8. Repeat, find your dot, 2 1/8 if you have it, 6 3/8. Did I say 6 1/8 before? I meant 6 3/8. 2 1/8, 6 3/8, 2 1/8, 6 3/8. There we go. Pocket A. That concludes the scoring required for all 12 of our cards. Now we're going to tackle them one set at a time, starting with set A, and you're going to need the smallest size envelopes from your kit, so grab those as well. I also grabbed a bone folder, my adhesive, all my favorite things I use to make my cards, And I'm going to pull everything out of pocket A. The first thing that we can do that's nice and easy is flip all of your card bases over so that the bump of the score lines are facing up. The bumps are facing up. And go ahead and fold to bury the bump of the score line on the inside of the fold. Now, since this is a gate fold, and I've learned to never trust a score line, as you're making these little creases, before you burnish with your bone folder, make sure that the edges are lining up nicely, because you can make small tweaks to improve the alignment of the fold, just in case it wasn't a perfect score, maybe it wasn't a perfect cut. So this really helps get everything straightened out. And now we have our card bases ready to go. Let's place the dark brown card first, then the orange, then light brown and red. Okay, now each one of these card bases, we're just going to distribute all of the pieces needed for each card. Each one needs one of these scored pieces. Each one is going to receive a panel. So we'll go orange here, light brown, red, and dark brown. Then we'll distribute a printed panel. This is for the outside of each card. We've got a sentiment going, so how about today only happens once on both of these, and a little birdie told me it was your birthday on these. The inner sentiment will be, for this one, make it amazing on both of them. And then for these two, a little birdie, the inner sentiment says, and I was like, whoa, a talking bird. Now, all of these pieces are fussy cut and distributed to any of the cards as you wish. I'll show you how I use them in mine, but I'm not going to mess with those right now. Each card gets one of those little 1/2-inch pieces that I told you earlier were very, very optional. And then we need a paper to act as the belly band. So you can distribute maybe a light brown here. How about a red, a dark brown, and an orange? Orange paper, not an orange. Okay, so the smallest set of envelopes, that's called the A2, is designed to fit this card base. But for right now, I just want you to pile in all of the pieces we laid out for that 4th card, the 3rd card, and I bet you can guess what we're going to do, the 2nd card, and we will make the 1st card together, because all of these cards go the same way. So to save a little bit of filming time, editing time, you're going to be able to do this, repeat this as many times as needed to figure out how these cards go together. What I first want to do here is make this mechanism for the inside of the card. It's so much fun. Take this printed paper and put it plain side up. And what we want to do is take this corner and fold it to the center, which I can see by the virtue of the score line here. And I'm going to fold very, very neatly, because I'm building the foundation of something, and I'm going to make a nice crease there. Then I'm going to go the other direction and bring it down this way to kind of make an X. And again, I want that to be nice and neat. So I can make my crease. If you want, you can burnish it. Now I'm just going to turn the paper so it's comfortable for me to work and make an X here as well. So the same story. Bring that corner up to the top, to the center score line. So we never really fold on the center score, but it is, to me, I tried it without the score line there, and it was just really hard to figure out where the center was before making the crease. And you're like, oh, that's not quite as accurate as I wanted it. So I've burnished and made an X in each one of these areas. I'm going to turn the paper back over and make folds so that the bump of the score line on the 2-inch and the 6-inch score line goes like this. Now what I can do is just push in right here, and I can bring this in to make a point, like a roof of a house. Let me show you that again. Turn it over. So I'm going to push right here, push right in the center, and then this becomes a valley. These become mountains. Then the other diagonal becomes a valley, and now I have a double pointed thing, and this is kind of the magic of that whole ordeal. Okay, isn't that cool? Now what you can do right away is this is the inner sentiment, make it amazing. So we're gonna go ahead and put this right in the center of our origami pop-up piece. Just kind of look at the points and line them up. And isn't that fun? Okay, so now I'm gonna take my card base here, open it up, and let's take our mechanism and put it inside the card. I'm gonna fold one side over so that this is centered top to bottom here. Okay, and then this is the side I'm gonna adhere right now. So I'll take my glue and I'm just gonna go around the perimeter here. You can use your regular glue too. I just kind of like having the glue right on the edge of the triangle, and then just fold that side down. Now, so I can work comfortably, I'm just gonna rotate so I can work with my right hand in a comfortable position, and I'll add this gate. I'm just gonna turn it right back around again. And look at that, isn't it cute? Make it amazing, make it amazing. Okay, over here, easy peasy happening. I will add adhesive to the large printed panel and to the sentiment. So here we go. Center that on there. And then this I'm gonna center in the upper area so that my margin left, right, and top is the same. And then I can take my sheet of the dazzles. I really like to work with a craft knife when I'm using these and just kind of grab the dazzle, and you can, you know, decide what you want to do here. Totally designer's choice. Pretty, right? Okay, and then this needs to be attached to the card. And I want to do it so that it's centered. So I think 2 3/4 is gonna be my 0 center. 1, 2, 3. Yes, 3 cubes from the left edge of the card base and 3 cubes from the top and bottom. So I'm gonna turn this over. I only want to put adhesive on the left side of this mat, not on this side at all, or I'm gonna, you know, make a postcard, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I have my card is virtually complete. All that's left to do is plan the belly band. So I'm just gonna kind of take this 10-inch piece and wrap it around. You want it to be tight enough when you make the crease so that it will slide, but you don't want it to be so loose that it just falls off. So you just kind of a combination. Now, do you see where the seam of this is falling? I kind of want it to be as close to the center as possible. So I'm just going to put what I want on the front, on the top, open this up, and then I'm just gonna put a little glue on there and a little glue over here. That way when I bring this back, boom. And this is where this really little guy comes in. Make a squiggle, and it fits right on there. So cute, right? Now I did a little ribbon trick. This is the one we're calling the Julie. So I have this pretty little red ribbon here, and I'm just gonna tie a simple flat knot here, but don't go all the way tight. Now take a little piece of this, and I'm gonna make sure it's cut at a nice fresh angle. Maybe like a 2-inch piece, maybe that's about 2 inches, and I'm gonna slide that in between the layers of this bow here. There we go. And as I pull my bow tight, I'm just gonna guide the ribbon. You have to pardon my hand here. I did injure my hand. It really hurts. Throbs at night when I'm trying to sleep. But this too shall pass. And then I'll dovetail cut the ends for a pretty finish. And isn't that just The sweetest. You could also put this on there, but I kind of liked it on the other card. I mean, it's your own card, right? So you can do it as you wish. You could use a glue line here. You can use our bookbinding glue to place and keep the ribbon in its spot. You can omit the ribbon. Sometimes I don't like having a ribbon because it does make your card a little bit lumpy. And, you know, that can be an issue with our good friends at the USPS. But all in all, that is your finished card. Isn't it sweet? So that's actually was this one. I used a little bit of a different dazzle. Here we have the next version of the same card. Here, just different ways to use the dazzles. A little bit larger rows here, and then 2 leaves along the bottom. And this is the one, it says, and I was like, whoa, a talking bird. Oh yes, I wanted to show you how I just randomly placed these cut-aparts on the inside. Let's show you this one. So you can see more random florals. This one, we've got our florals. I put a dazzle right there. And then this one here. Aren't they lovely? So fun. I love that little pop-up, and it really is quite easy. And what I would almost advise is that you make all of those little pop-ups at the same time so that you can get that out of the way and they're just done. That's what I did when I made all of my cards. I did all the pop-ups first, and then I assembled the cards. That is your set A, all good to go. Moving on to set B, I will take the contents out of the pocket, and right out of the gates, if you want, you can fold again the card bases. I flipped everything over so that the bumps of the score lines are facing up, and then you're just gonna roll it on in. Every fold, roll it on in so that your card will almost be folded in half, but not quite. You can do that with all of your card bases. I like to start with that little tab, and as you're folding, of course, make sure that the paper's edges are aligned. Never trust a score line, because they can really be not quite right, okay? We'll set these out. I've got my brown card base, orange, red, and light brown. And then we're going to distribute another color here with this other scored piece. We're going to add the light brown to the dark brown card base, then dark brown here, orange, and red. We get more panels. Now this could be a little bit confusing. You've got 2 sets of panels. And if you look carefully, 2 are taller and 1 is narrower. So take the wider one, red, light brown, dark brown, and orange. Now you've got the narrower ones left. So we're going to go orange, red, light brown, and dark brown. So now pretty much every color is represented on each card. Then the easy part, adding the print and the sentiment. Here we go. We've got, you'll be swell, you'll be great, I can tell, just you wait, it is graduation season. So you've got 2 nice way to goes, and that can really be for anything. And then no words, just hugs. We'll add those as well. Take the medium-sized envelopes that were included in your kit and add them. Add the individual card pieces to the envelopes. We'll do card 4, 3, and 2, and then we're going to make this final card together. Okay. First thing we need to do is create our box-like structure. And to do that, we're just going to make a simple plan here. There's this little 1/2-inch tab. If you just fold in on that, and then do you see we've got there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 score lines. If your card is situated with that 1/2-inch score line on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fold on the 3rd line and tuck in the tab. If you do that and you glue that tab in place, when the card functions as a box, it will be in the perfect position. So all I have to do now is apply my bookbinding glue or your favorite adhesive. I like the bookbinding glue for this for some reason. And I'm going to push that down onto the back wall of my card. And then I know I've got everything in the right place. Give it just a second and I can pop this up and verify that yes, indeed, it's perfect. Next, I do want to add the narrower orange panel to the back wall of the card, not to the pop-up wall, but the back wall. I'm just gonna use my regular adhesive for that. This print will nest onto the red. Now, if you want to use ribbon the way I did in my sample, you'll want to do that part right now. So I'm going to take this plentiful amount of this ivory ribbon and I'm going to tape a piece of it to the back of this panel. Okay, then just wrap it up. If you want to go at an angle and then do a second wrap, you got plenty of ribbon to do that with. Crisscross it, bring around to the back, and tape that end and trim the tail. Now, as long as I have it laying here, I can... Order of assembly is so important in this card. While it's flat, it's a little easier to attach it. Okay. Next up, I'm going to nest the sentiment onto this other scored piece. If you want, it might be a good idea just to go ahead and make your little folds by burying the bumps of the score line, just so that you can do it on the right side. So you want those score lines going, creating mountain folds like this. So let me add my sentiment here. I could always add it last too. Okay, so what's important here is assembly strategy. If you don't put this in the right place when the card is flat, your sentiment will extend beyond the edge and it will not fit, no matter how hard you try, into the envelope. So here, if I have this folded on the line closest to the sentiment and I have the card flat, this is a great way to kind of determine. I'm going to attach this so that it's 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the card base. So that's 2 cubes on my ruler, and then centered will be at 1 5/8. I can do that. And I can actually tuck this in later. So I'm going to apply adhesive to the tab. Flip it back around. Put my ruler so that I am 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the card. And then plop this down. And that's going to place that tab in the perfect spot. And I'm going to give that a second. Now if I lift this up, I'm going to put a little adhesive just on this edge of the flap here. And then I'm going to go ahead and tuck that behind the ribbon. And then attach it while it's flat. That way I know the card's going to function exactly as I want. Now the card is dimensional. How cool is that? Okay, I'm going to add my cute little bow. Is going to kind of cover this flower a little bit. What's nice is, you know, this Cutaparts is going to work whether you have the rosette or not. So once you start using more, you know, open stock Cutaparts, it still is decorative, but here, I mean, that couldn't be cuter. It's going to mill nice and flat, and it's going to stand up nice for display. You got a pretty swell card right there, don't you? Okay, so let's take a look at the other ones in the set. They go together the same way. Just the rosette location changed on the no words, just hugs. If you want to add your signature here, you can. Here, this panel is kind of dark, so you get the whole back of the card in order to write your note or personalize it any way you wish. And then, let's see, this is the other orange base card that matches this one. Either way, they all get assembled the same exact way. They all display nice and cool, and then mail perfectly flat. That, my friends, was set B for your standing box cards. I hope you liked this version. Our final set, set C, I don't want you to concern yourself too much by duplicating absolutely every color that I used. It's really all pretty random, to be honest. We have all of these squares to work with. I promise it'll be fun and relatively easy. Just make sure you get them all out of that pocket. We have our larger inner sentiments. We have our rectangular outer sentiments. Our card bases are ready to fold, so go ahead and bury the bump of that score line on each of the 4 card bases. Okay, now I'm going to distribute them. So we'll go with the orange first, then red, light brown, and dark brown. What I'm about to tell you probably won't match what I did on my cards. I don't know if it will or not. I don't really worry too much about it. I just have a little method. So my first method requires that I kind of separate my squares of the colors. Well, let's just add our sentiments. You have a wonderful gift to offer the world will be our top 2, and then with sincere sympathy will be our bottom 2. Now, I always take the card that I started with, which is orange, and now I'm going to take these orange squares and start distributing orange to the next card. So let's go 1 in the top row, 1 in the, I would call that maybe the 3rd row, and 1 in the 4th row. Let's go left, middle, bottom. Now on this one we'll go middle, right, left, and on this one we'll go right, left, middle. There, that's all you got to do. Now this was red, so I'm just going to grab my red. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go left, middle, bottom, middle, right, left, right, left, middle. You can just see basically that I am rotating through on color, right? So this card was tan, so I'll just go left, middle, bottom, middle, right, left, right, left, middle. All I have left to do is fill in the spaces with the brown. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I had one over here, 3. Cool, right? Now we have our squares of print. And you can be as random or as particular about this. I don't have the exact same number of printed pieces for each card. So I almost recommend like dealing them out one at a time. And then I'm going to go here, just, I don't know, until you run out. Pick whatever you want. I have 2 left, so I'll put 1 here. I have 3 left, 1 here, 1 here. It doesn't matter. It just, they get randomly distributed, okay? I used every last piece of print that I could possibly use, and I've got some squares that aren't covered with print, some that are. I think the randomness is totally fine. Each card gets one of these sweet little scallop edge craft color tags. Each card will get a flower. Now, while you were not looking, I went to my die cutting machine, my Sizzix, and rolled it through and got that. Again, this is one that has been cut with scissors. It's totally fine. Each one is going to receive a inner strip. It's just a strip that was used, so I'll just pay forward the colors like I usually do here, and then add my inner sentiments. You have a wonderful gift to offer the world, gets, and that gift is being you. And then nothing I can say will ease your pain for the last 2 cards. Loading these into the envelopes after all of the meticulous time you spent placing, I don't know. I'm just going to stack these and get right back to it in a little bit. After we're done filming, I'm going to finish these cards, at least getting the colored pieces onto the squares so I don't have to sort them all out again. However, if you did, it wouldn't be too hard to figure it out. Okay, so let's get these cards done, and I want to show you how quick and easy this can really be. For now, I'm not going to worry about the printed pieces. I'm just going to get these plain pieces onto the card. And since I have the orange base, which is textured, I don't have to worry about a texture. So all I'm going to do is apply adhesive to each square all at once. Easy, right? Then your reveal on the edge is going to be 1 cube on your grid ruler. So if I place this against the folded edge, I'll line it up so it's 1 cube in. I can take this guy and just 1 cube. And that's going to fit in there perfectly. So if I get my bottom row now, I'm going to bring my ruler around to the bottom, go 1 cube up, flip it over, and from the top, it's always very glary for me, probably for you at points. If I look at my monitor to try to make sure it doesn't glare for you, it's glaring for me, but not you. But then if it's not glaring for me, it is glaring for you. That's why I have this reflective ruler. Now I'm just eyeballing these last 2 little squares. And then I can happily add my sentiment. I mean, you gotta admit, for a card that looks so labor intensive, that wasn't bad. Okay, so now I flip over all of the prints and the same thing. Now this is a really big tape gun. If you don't feel comfortable applying adhesive to these little squares with a tape gun like that, don't worry about it. Just grab, you know, whatever's smaller. You can use the bookbinding glue if you want. I'm gonna put these next to each other. I'm gonna put this one here. And I'm looking at the text, placing it right side up if I can. Oh, look at all the, this is so sweet. Okay, I'm gonna put this up here. All right, now I have this guy. If I cut it with a 2-inch punch, I'm going into the hole. So here's what I'm gonna do. Grab my circle and nest it on there so that the hole is positioned where I want it at the top. Then if you have a hole punch, a crocodile, center it over where the hole is originally placed. Then take your beautiful red ribbon, run it through the hole. With scissors, I'm just gonna cut a small piece and then wrap it around to the back just so it looks pretty. Just a little twist of ribbon. Then if you have some foam adhesive circles, I like to cut them in half, still preserving the pull tab. And around we go. That way I only have to use like half the number of circles, but I still get just as much support for my tag here. And using the foam adhesive is totally optional. If you'd like to keep your card a little more flat, you can. And then this is situated so it can go right here. How sweet. Okay, next up, I'll take this little strip. And I'm gonna go in about a 1/4 inch. So that's 2 cubes on my grid ruler. Make sure it's level. Okay, and then I'll add the sentiment to the inside. If you want, you can go back to your stickers, your dazzles. You know, I have a weakness for dazzles. And I can add something. That's really sweet. I could also add a leaf. And if you have a lot extra of these, you know where I would suggest putting them is maybe on your envelope. That would be pretty. Oh, that's gorgeous. Still plenty of room to assign your name. Beautiful card anyone would be overjoyed to receive. I think that's true for all of these in the Coming Up Roses collection. Really hope you like this kit, and if you like the theme and you happen to be a scrapbooker, make sure you pick up the Coming Up Roses page kit. We will make 8 pages together. They're going to be 12 by 12. We'll use up everything that comes in the box, so all you have left are just 12 by 12 pages. You can add your pictures and memories to. They're fabulous. Okay, don't forget, hit that like button. Just say hi in the comments. Let me know you're watching, and I look forward to seeing you in our next workshop here at Club Scrap. Again, I'm Tricia Morris. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you next time.